The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service presents Let's Talk Finance, a feature exploring the various elements of the economic program.
Welcome again to Let's Talk Finance here on Nationwide 90 FM. My name is George Davis. My guest this week, he's been with me a few times in the past. He is Trevor Anderson, Acting Principal Director, Fiscal Policy Management Branch in the Economic Management Division of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Welcome again, Trevor.
Thank you, George, and good morning to your listeners.
Good. All right. Where the fiscal policy paper is concerned, I want to start this segment by looking at the looking at the real sector developments for the fiscal year 2017-2018. The numbers show that economic growth recorded over that time was 0.9%. How does that stack up to the corresponding period the year before? And if I may attach something else to it, what were the key drivers of that 0.9% positive outturn?
The key drivers, of course, would have been agriculture, significant improvements in the agricultural sector. We have also observed improvements in mining, in particular the bauxite sector as Alapart expands its capacity.
Yes.
So those are the two key drivers of the growth in 17-18, that 0.9%. I think it was lower than the output in 16-17.
Yes.
If memory serves me, it was about 1.1 or 1.2%.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it's still a positive outturn, and the trajectory is for the economy to continue recording fairly strong real growth. The figure for 16-17 was 1.4%. So 0.9 was a little dip.
Yes.
But we understand the causes behind it, and we keep looking forward. So we are always anticipating growth to occur between the 2 to 3% range. And for 18-19, George, I might mention that the first quarter, April to June, for the fiscal year, that real quarter growth over the corresponding period in 17-18,
Yes.
the outturn was a robust 2.2%.
Yes.
And the estimate for the July to September quarter is currently at 2%.
Yes.
So we are seeing signs of strengthening
Yes.
and momentum building.
Where mining and quarrying and agriculture are concerned, anybody who monitors the numbers will know that when those two sectors do well, then it has a positive effect on the overall real GDP numbers for any period under review.
Yes.
Is there anything in the environment to suggest that the strong performance in those two most critical areas can extend and sustain beyond what happened for 17-18 and beyond what has happened in the first review period in the 18-19 fiscal year?
Well, we're always mindful of the impact from weather.
For agriculture.
Yes. And also mining, because when we have excess rainfall,
Yes.
it impedes activity in the mining sector also.
Yes.
So provided that we have fairly good weather conditions throughout, we expect these two sectors to continue to turn out very positive results.
One of the things I've always been, I don't know if concern is the word, Trevor, but perplex is even stronger than concern, is the performance of the services industry. I look at the services industry and, you have the old faithful areas that contribute to the overall GDP picture. But I don't see a pattern of strong growth in services to support where we want to go. Am I being pessimistic is the picture brighter than I'm interpreting it right now, where the services industry and its contribution to real GDP growth is concerned?
The services sector has been fairly stable. You have little bright sparks in certain niches. So, for example, the big service sector is tourism.
Yes.
But tourism's contribution to GDP in the traditional national accounts, it's captured within the category called restaurants. I forget the full title now.
Yeah, it's a long
But
one.
for you to get a real fulsome impact, you'd have to look at the tourism satellite account, which is produced by Statin.
Yes.
And that is produced, I think, with a two or 3 year lag. But services on a whole, it tends to hold its own overall. There are some bright sparks. For example, we've been hearing about expansion in the BPO sector.
Yes.
It certainly has contributed where the employment numbers are concerned. But you don't get a big bang from the services.
But it's
sector
interesting
in
you
the
say that
national
now, Trevor,
accounts.
because here's the thing. You mentioned BPO, and there have been several thousand jobs added in that sector over the past 5 years. In fact,
Yes.
it's arguable that it has added more jobs than any other sector over the comparable time. The BPO, thousands of square footage put in use and thousands of jobs employed. Is there a direct pass-through from the employment in the BPO sector to what the services industry contributes directly to those GDP numbers? Because I'm wondering if there's something that doesn't translate quite as literal. So if you have 20,000 jobs created in a review period in the services sector, in the BPO sector, then that what should I say, a factor from those 20,000 jobs is reflected in the number that goes into crunching what the real GDP output is.
Obviously, the expanded employment in the BPO sector would have spillover effects in other sectors, and that would be driven, of course, by the higher consumption. Other than that, it's really hard to say what are the direct or indirect linkages
Yes.
between the subsectors in the economy. But definitely from the consumption route, you would see the impact of the higher employment in the BPO sector filtering through increased sales in other sectors.
Let's look at manufacturing, and manufacturing from the perspective of its own contribution to the GDP picture. For years, we've been told by economic analysts, government officials as well, that because our import bill is as it is, and the import situation where we buy so much of what we consume, local manufacturers don't have space to produce to meet those consumption demands, and hence you don't get the benefit from manufacturing to real GDP output that a country in our situation ought to get. Is that picture changing? Is manufacturing bedding in and filling the gap from what people used to buy from overseas to consume, whether to eat, to wear, to use? It's still consumption. Is manufacturing filling that gap? Is manufacturing pulling its weight?
Manufacturing has improved significantly in recent years, but obviously, George, there is much more way to go. It's going to take some time for perceptions about the quality of locally manufactured items are concerned, where the local consumer is looking on. There is a key point to be made here, and this was made by I think it's the former president of the manufacturers, Metro Siaga, where he indicated that a consumer looking on a foreign piece of furniture, which is put together by screws and bolts and all
Comes
of
in
that.
a box with a manual.
Comes in a
and
box
you
with a
put it
manual and you
together,
just put it together. That comes in at a much cheaper price to the consumer than a traditional piece of Jamaican-made furniture, which is held together by various screws, glues, and when you look at it, it's more sturdy.
Yes.
But the price
Yes.
point is what the consumer is looking at.
Yes.
And when you remember that persons are constrained by their pay packet,
Yeah, by budget, yes.
they're trying to maximize or get the biggest bang from their limited earnings. So the local manufacturing sector, they're going to have to look at two things. One, continually improving the quality of their products. And secondly, to find a creative way to come in at a price point which makes them really competitive. And if you can't compete on price, compete on information to the consumer. Indicate to the consumer the life expectancy from this locally made product.
Yes.
If a manufacturer can say, my table will stand up for the next 25 years,
Yes.
you're immediately indicating quality to the consumer,
Yes.
the perceptive consumer,
Yes.
as opposed to buying something that you just simply put together out of a box.
Yes.
And we hear of flooding in Jamaica from time to time.
Yes.
When that piece of furniture is flooded
Yes.
or subject to water,
It's wet. Now the use of
it's
the-
damaged.
Yes.
No use.
Yes.
Right? The material soaks in the water and
Yes.
it deteriorates.
Yes.
If you can say to the local consumer, my table, my whatnot will stand up for 25 years.
Yes.
Right? Termite, chichi can't touch it.
Yes.
You're immediately
Yes.
you're signaling why your product should be bought.
Yeah, it's a value proposition you're making to the
Yes.
consumer. So the sticking with your example, buy my whatnot
Yes.
for $50,000. You're guaranteed if you use it normally to have it for 25 years. Your children can inherit
Children can inherit
it. Rather than buy a whatnot from wherever country that you put together in minutes that costs $5,000, but you're going to have to replace it after 5 years.
In fact, George, the whatnot which I have in my house,
Yes.
I inherited from my late mother.
There you go.
And it has surpassed other pieces of furniture that I
Yes.
have bought.
Yes.
Whether it be TV stands with these screw-up, I don't want to call the brand name, with these screw-up devices.
Yes.
And as soon as it's subject to water, or if it gets too damp, it
Yes.
deteriorates.
Yes.
No.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Right. But there's a broader point to be made, though, Trevor, because manufacturing as we know it, and by we, I'm talking Jamaicans of a certain generation, yourself included, myself
Yes.
included, where the things that we used to manufacture, that we used to sell locally, that we used to export, there's a radical change in what that list of things looks like.
Yes.
And so, for manufacturing to regain its former pride of place, it can't be that we're going back to manufacture those things because the world has changed.
The world has changed.
And demands are different.
Demands are
Consumption
different.
patterns different.
Yes.
There you go. All right. We're going to pick up this conversation in the next installment of this program, Trevor. I want to thank you for your time today. And yeah, wish you all the best. So that's Let's Talk Finance for this week. Yeah, don't get your tongue tied at the end, George. Yeah, we'll be back next week to continue looking at the fiscal picture as captured in the fiscal policy paper for 2017-18 and looking forward to what the performance and outturn is likely to be next time around.
That was Let's Talk Finance, brought to you by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.